Welcome, everyone, to Signal 11 Outdoors Podcast. Today we got a really special guest from New Jersey. Brian Melvin shot a world record bear, and we're going to get the story from him today. Brian, how are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. Pleasure to be here, Steve. Thanks a lot.
It's glad to have you. I know you've probably done quite a few of these over the last couple months at least, but since you're from New Jersey and I just recently got to know you, so that bear is obviously famous, so I figured let's get you on here if we could, and we'll talk about it a little bit.
Would love to.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to jump right into it, but I think something happened yesterday that I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and a friend of mine ended up calling you. I just want to start with that because I think it's pretty cool. Can you just tell us what happened yesterday?
Yeah, man, I was definitely excited. Got a call from Ted Nugent, thanks to you and Will, and it was an awesome conversation, man. The guy is exactly who he is on every platform that you could possibly see him. He is down to earth and one of a kind, but we had a great conversation. We talked about the bear. We talked about hunting in general. Talked about some of the things that New Jersey may be able to do better. I'll leave it at that. But no, it was a fantastic conversation, and it was an absolute pleasure and an honor to speak with him.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Will, myself, and Ted have our own little group message going. So when I got the message, I couldn't call you quick enough afterwards. I knew it had happened. Ted had called me and we spoke about it. So that's really cool. And you're right. We're gonna have him on here soon. And he's just a voice that is not afraid to obviously speak out about whatever he feels is necessary. And a lot of hunters can't do that. So we're all really happy to have him as a kind of a mouthpiece for most of us. I'm sure not everybody agrees with him, but I know I certainly do. So.
He gets a lot more done than most.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. Real quick, there was an issue in PA. I guess it was last year? I think it was the beginning of last year. They were going to do a vote on, I believe, on a Saturday. And it was a Fish and Game Council vote. And they were going to knock out all products that can attract deer, as crazy as that sounds.
Wow.
I mentioned it to Ted, and then it wasn't very long after we spoke that he called me back to get a little more details on it. So I got all the details I could, and he utilized his resources to get people informed about it. And in the end, they held off on that Saturday vote, but they were about to ban real scent, synthetic scent, bait, everything. They were looking at any kind of food scents, whether it be food-based or non-food-based. That's what they were at. So I'm sure that's still going to go on, but that was a big one that Ted really helped out on with his friends and the people he's connected with. And I don't think people even really know how much he works for, sometimes for no credit at all. So
Absolutely.
Well, we're here today to talk to you, Brian. Awesome stories. I've watched a couple of the podcasts you did because I've been enamored with that bear just looking at it. And I've shot one bear myself, and it was a 300 plus pounder, which wasn't very big, but for me, it's
a good bear.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, in New Jersey, we'll talk about it.
We're a little spoiled.
We are very spoiled. So
yeah.
I know the work involved, and I know for a fact myself, I've kind of shied away from taking another bear because of how much work it was. But I got to be honest with you. I think he inspired me to. I see the amount of work you put in, and we all put a lot of work. Most of us put a lot of work in, but you put an exceptional amount of work in. You tagged an unbelievable bear, obviously. I've never shot one with the bow, and I think it's going to be my goal for this A segment of this year if everything goes smoothly. So we'll see, but it's an inspiration I'm getting from you, to be honest with you.
Awesome, man. I'm glad. That's
so,
awesome.
Listen, we know you've been hunting for a while. Nobody shoots a bear of that size. So I'd like to jump right into the hunt. I think everybody watching this would. You could pretty much give us a background on the kind of work you did, which was incredible. And then the day of the hunt is just awesome the way you pulled it off. So you go ahead. We're gonna be here listening.
Yeah, man. So we'll start at the beginning more or less. So really, the obsession started about 3 years ago. I ran into the bear during a late season scout actually on some state pieces that were in that general area, a mile or two away from where I ended up harvesting the bear. But he ended up on a camera that again I was just doing for some late season scouting, and I knew immediately when I saw the pictures, I was like, that's a special bear. It's a big bear. Started talking to a lot of people that were in the neighborhood. They knew about the bear. He was a little bit of a legend in the area. I talked to a bunch of other hunters. They had been after him as well. A bunch of guys have been trying to get him for years. He'd always done what I'm about to explain to you, what he did to me, to other guys. So again, fast forward to last season, about 6 weeks before the season. Again, people that may not know, we have an A week and a B week season in New Jersey. A week is in October, B week is in December, and it's 2 full weeks throughout the year, and that's it. A week is the only week that you can use a bow. I'm a big archery hunter, so that was my focus. So I usually start running baits about 6 weeks, maybe even longer, 8 weeks before the season, scouting, trying to find out what's going on. I immediately got him where I had those cameras in that late season. I started getting him on camera right away on the bait, and he patterned up almost too fast. I got a little cocky, and I'll be honest, that he was just showing up in daylight. And a lot of people talk about big bears don't daylight bears, they don't pattern. Well, I was like, all right, I got this. I've chased some big bucks and blah, blah, blah. I was completely wrong, 100% wrong. He made me look like an idiot, and I'm humbled by it, and I learned a ton from it. But he stayed on an incredible pattern for a couple weeks, and then he jumped on me for no apparent reason. He went about 1,000 yards away to another swampy area, and I had to find him again. I was running somewhere between 25 and 30 cameras, just constantly keeping a net going. If you've ever run bait for big bears, you understand there's a lot more that goes into it than just throwing some donuts on the ground. You got to keep bait sites clean. You got to keep different baits going to keep them interested. If there's smaller bears and cubs in the area, you could dump, 200, 300, 400 pounds in a day, and it can be gone in 48 hours. So it's a constant job. Like you were saying, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So again, he jumped on me, had to find him again, change up my plans a little bit to a new area, got him patterned again. Daylight, no problem. He's locked in. We're good to go. And we get to the first, the opening day of that season, and I have him on camera every single night, sleeping on the bait, staying there till the morning. Then he would disappear, and then he'd come back in the afternoon. He'd do the same kind of routine every day. Well, literally like clockwork, opening day, he shows up at night, the night before, sleeps on the bait. 6:30 is my last picture. He walks off the bait. I get a picture of his butt walking away, and that's the last picture I get for him for 6 months. He just vanishes. Can't find him. I spent the entire season looking for him, which is only a week, but I went nuts, ran a lot of cameras, covered as much ground as I could, did not find him. No one else knew where he was either. He was gone. Bummed out. I based my whole season on him. I really focused on him. I was like, all right, I didn't hear of any hunters that got him. Knew he was a significant bear in that area. No one had shot something that size. So hoped that he was still alive. Kept some cameras going throughout the winter and the spring in that same area. Come May, he pops back up on the camera in the second spot. Only gives me one picture. So I'm like, all right, I got to find him again. Which then took a little bit of time, took about a month and a half, maybe now actually a little more than 2 months. And I found him. He was about almost 2 miles, a mile and a half away from the second spot to a new swamp that he had found. And he had always stayed in these nasty, brambly swamps that were always wet, really secluded, that he could tuck away and feel secure. So that's this year now, right? So now a month before the season, know where he is. He's in this 30-acre patch that I got, 30-acre swamp that I got permission for, but he's actually living in another piece that was across the roads, like a 6-acre swamp, and he was transitioning from one to another. There was a couple other hunters in the area that were also baiting that got him on camera. So it's just Jersey. It's just part of the game. The other guys are going to be around. Very rarely are you going to have a big enough area in New Jersey that you're going to be the only guy, right? So it's just part of the game. Knew the only way I could that I had a chance was to properly bait him and try and separate myself from some of the guys. So I ran a nice mix of baits, some granular baits, some big baits, and kept them super fresh. I ran baits every single day. I took a month off of work, and I ran baits every day. I think I went close to 4,000 pounds of bait in that month, and it was a lot. It was a lot of work, but it was like go big or go home type of thing. I knew I really didn't have too many chances, and some guys were going after him pretty hard. So the plan was that he was transitioning from this small 6-acre swamp across a main road coming into this big 30-acre swamp that I felt I had a better chance of hunting him. But in New Jersey, if you use bait, you cannot hunt over the bait. You got to be over 100 yards away from that bait. Right. Fine. It's Jersey rules. We're not going to get into that, but It is what it is, right? Unfortunately, the way he was transitioning in the predominant wind of that time, it was hard for me to get him to stay in that 30-acre patch with a northwest wind without me getting busted. So my real plan was to try and intercept him coming out of that 6 acre patch into the 30-acre patch and either cut him off coming or cut him off going back. He never really showed up in daylight in the afternoons or midday. He would spend most of his movement hours that I had on camera was at night, and then he would give me a small window every morning where he'd be on the bait at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and then he would head back to his bed, and I had a camera running over there as well. So that was the plan. The week before the season, we had a northwest wind for 6 days straight. He did the exact same thing for 6 days. I mean, didn't break a pattern. I was like, this is looking good. Like we're doing the right thing right now. We come morning. It's the day opener is Monday the 14th, and of course we have a southwest wind. So there goes my plan. It was the worst wind I could possibly have for that spot. I needed that northwest wind for him to transition into that deep swamp where I had the bait, and I just didn't get it. I knew it was coming on Tuesday, so I stayed out on Monday. Hard to do after all that work, right? You want to jump right in, but for the big bears, you don't have much room for error. So Tuesday morning came around. I watched my cameras, and he did what he had always done on the northwest winds. He showed up around 4:30 on my bait. So I knew he was going to be in that 30-acre swamp, tucked away, hitting that bait, and he would bounce around. I think he would eat a little bit, go get some water, then he'd come back and eat a little bit. But he always kind of hit it right before first light and then transitioned to his bed. That's what I was banking on. I jumped in behind him about 200 yards in that smaller patch that he had been bedding in, that I knew he was bedding in. I also never went into that small patch. I stayed out of it all the time. Scouted it from just the roadside and never wanted to punch in. I felt that the years before, some of my mistakes were that I walked on some of his main trails, and maybe that's why he jumped on me. So I wasn't going to make that mistake this year. So again, it's 4:30 in the morning. He's on my main bait, and I jump in behind him about 200 yards and get on the trail that I know he's using back to bed. Now,
I'm sorry, Brian, what time is that you're jumping in?
I got in at like right around 4:30, 4:45.
Okay.
Jumped up as early as I could once I got a confirmation that he was in that other property. I had to use a climber because I had never set anything up over there. Again, I'd never stepped foot in that woods, so it was all in the dark. I knew where his trail was. I just had to find shooting lanes and a decent tree to climb up and get up there. And I actually climbed up about 15, 17 feet and realized that it was such a thick swamp that I was too high. So there was a big canopy up top, and then there was that typical swamp sapling canopy that was low, and I kind of had to get between it. So I had to come down about 4 feet and sit around 12 feet, 10, 12 feet, which is not very high. It was the only place that I could see shooting lanes, and I'm literally picking shooting lanes out with my red lamp in the in the dark to that 25 yards to where that trail was. So I had, roughly about 2.5 hours to really settle in before he would make his transition back over, which was fine. It gave me plenty of time to get dialed in and see what I needed to do. If he took that trail back, he was going to be at 20 to 25 yards, hopefully a broadside lights out, right? Sounds perfect on paper. That's not always what happens. So the last picture I get of him is, I think, at 7:10 or 6:50. I forget exactly I can show you that picture, but it's in daylight. And you see him walking off my bait. He walks right across the street, and I see him entering the woods. It looks like a Volkswagen is just walking in front of me. He's coming down the trail. I'm like, all right, man, he's doing everything perfect. He's reading the script. This is going down. The wind's hitting me in the face. I didn't go anywhere near his trail. I got thermals pushing my wind the right direction. Like, every box is checked. He stops at 35 yards, completely covered by brush, didn't get to the shooting window I wanted, and stops for about 2 minutes. Dead stop, puts his head up, sniff in the air, and again, I got a 10 mile an hour wind hitting me right in the face. I know he's not winning me. He just knew something was up. They always say the big bears know. Well, I saw it firsthand, man. It was pretty cool to watch. It was also extremely nerve-wracking after all the work I put in. He turned on a 90 degrees and walked directly away from me, heading out. I looked, and I had two or three shooting windows, one at 45 for sure, and one at 60. I'm confident out to 60. I want to shoot at 60 if I can help it, right? It is a larger target, right? He was big, but he got to the 45-yard mark and actually stopped himself. I did not have to stop him, and my only problem was that I needed to drop down even a little more. So I had to squat down in the climber in a little Cirque du Soleil action, right, and slip a sever tucked in there pretty nice, slightly quartering away, and it disappeared all the way to the knock. I didn't see the arrow sticking out, so I knew I got some great penetration. It was where I needed to be. He did not run, which freaked me out. He just soaked it up, turned, and walked away. And I thought I saw blood coming out right away. He walked out of that patch of woods, crossed the road, and actually went up this huge rock face on the far side. And he disappeared about 110 yards away from me on top of this rock cropping. So I'm like, man, he's got to be right there. Like, there's no way. Called my best friend. He immediately showed up real quick. We got on the blood. As soon as we got out of that patch of woods, across the road looked like someone dragged a paint can. I mean, the blood was ridiculous. We didn't have to pause at all. We could just walk the whole blood trail. Blood going all the way up the rocks. Again, no problem. The surprise was getting to him and that he was actually still alive.
Oh.
He couldn't really move. He couldn't go anywhere. He was done. Obviously, we never, as hunters, we want a clean, quick kill. Didn't want anything to suffer. So I put a second arrow in him. Again, to my surprise, he soaked that up, got up, and moved another 50, 60 yards where he did it later, where he expired right away, right then. He would die definitely from the first arrow. There's no question about him. Once we got him open, I saw where I hit him. But that was the right move to do.
Yeah.
When we finally got our hands on him, that's when the size kind of became a reality.
Yeah,
I mean, that was kind of crazy. And he actually died in a way better spot than when he would have the first time. He was in this rock outcropping. Again, I've said it 100 times. If he had died where I first found him, I'd be calling you right now. We'd still be getting him out. He was in a bad spot, but he ended up in a good spot. And then it was all high fives and trying to get him done. Now, a lot of people are giving me some grief, if you will, about getting gutted right away and getting them cleaned up. Now, a lot of people, well, maybe they don't, but if you do hunt big bears or bears in general, and you have any kind of temperatures that are climbing up above the 30s and 40s, you got to get them gutted pretty quickly and try and get the hide off them. And a bear of that size is paramount. Otherwise, you're going to lose the bear. So it was October, but it was getting up into the 60s and possibly going to be 70 degrees that day. Wasn't going to waste any time. I knew if I was going to take that bear to the check station, it might have turned into a little bit of a circus. So it was an easy decision for me. I'm not wasting any animal. We got the bear out of the private property that he had expired on, and we took it to my buddy's place, and we got it gutted up. We hung it up. We gutted it real quick, got him cleaned up, got him cooled off really nice, kept him in the shade, and then shot over to the check station. And, of course, pictures and all kinds of crazy stuff happened. And the bear got, weighed, all official, yada, yada. And the best part about it is I lost no meat. I was able to get it to the butcher. He cleaned it all up, got the hide off, and everything was perfect. So it worked out great.
Incredible. Give us the weight of the bear.
Yeah, so he dressed in at 770.5 pounds, and they gave me a couple different estimates of live weight. I've heard anywhere from 860 to 910, somewhere in there. I wasn't chasing a record. I was chasing a very specific bear. It was more about the hunt and the journey for that animal. Cool, great, big bear, awesome records, state records, and everything else, whatever else that people have said world record. Fantastic experience. Best animal I've ever chased. I don't think I'll ever have a chance to go after a bear that big again. We'll see. But I learned a ton.
Wow. Unbelievable. I mean, that's just everything you just said there was basically for the advanced bear hunter. That was a bit of a schooling right there and the amount of work that you put in. I mean, I'm just incredible. I mean, the bear's incredible. World record. It's got to be a world record. I mean, if you add the gut weight to it, you're there. I mean,
it's up there. It's one of the big ones for sure.
Amazing.
With the bow. There's some bigger ones for sure. With the gun, no doubt. A lot of people are like, oh no, it's not. It's with a bow, totally different ball game. So, but regardless, it's a huge bear, awesome bear.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. There's a couple things, but for those that are watching this, that whether you're from New Jersey or not, maybe you're not New Jersey has, and you're obviously one of them. New Jersey has a group of hardcore bear hunters. And I mean, the work you put in is incredible. I mean, what we have that here. I mean, I think they're in every state. But New Jersey is just interesting, and I obviously because I live in Sussex County, we're in the hotbed of bear population, and quite a few very large bears have been shot in this particular area. But obviously, this is the area of New Jersey that most of the bears go down in during the season. But it's kind of interesting because I'm just listening to you, and I'm going to ask you, and we may do it now, but I was going to ask you for, some tips for, the new bear hunter or the bear hunter that, like myself, I've never really targeted a bear particularly. You know, in the beginning, it was during the shotgun season.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I mean, the first season that it reopened after being closed for so many years, and I'm going back to the first time it opened. I mean, I was amazed. The first sit of the morning, I was hunting with a group of people, and I had thrown some stuff out for the bear. And then I kind of, as we got closer to it, I'm like, I don't know if I even want to bother shooting one, because we all were talking about, you know, everybody wanted to try to score a buck.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I had a bear come in. I actually had a bear come in, didn't shoot it, put the gun on it, looked at it through the scope, and I do that a lot when I'm hunting. If there's something I don't want to shoot, I still practice if I'm with the gun or if I have my crossbow or whatever I'm hunting with. A lot of times I'll make a little move just to make sure. It's almost like training, you know.
Right.
It hasn't really hurt me yet. I'm sure it will one day, but
No.
but you know, I've passed a few bears, and then the one I shot, I ended up shooting because I had a single shot H&R. I was on the ground, standing up, and this bear came out and was looking straight at me. Gave me a broadside shot at like 25 yards, and I said, you know what, I'm going to shoot this one. It was the perfect day. I had some time. I had help, you know, if I needed it. And it's funny, I shot that bear, and a friend of mine, Kevin, came over to me afterwards, and he said, oh, you know, it went down, no death moan, nothing. And what's interesting is I always carried my extra 20 gauge shell in my ear under my hat.
Okay.
So after my first shot, I could just grab it off my ear. That's always what I did. On this particular day, I happened to stuff it. I had half gloves on. I stuffed it into my finger of my half glove. And the funny thing is, I shot the bear and immediately went for the next shell. The bear ran. But when my buddy came over, he actually found it before me. He said, wow. He goes, where were you standing? I said, oh, right there, leaning on that tree. So he walked it off, and he goes, you realize that bear ran about 38 yards before it expired. You were only about 20 yards from it. He could have got you. Yeah. I said, you know what? I never even thought about it, and you would have known from the shit stains that would have been around me that I saw him coming. But, you know, so that's my only bear. But going back to your bear, I mean, what's interesting, I'm listening to you. You said something about fresh bait.
Yeah.
Now, when you say fresh, you mean just keep adding bait, or do you mean fresh? What do you mean by that?
So one thing I do, and call me OCD, which I'm OCD about a lot of things, but I clean my bait sites religiously. A lot of times, and running, again, let me go back and say, you said there's a core of bear hunters in New Jersey, a big core, and there's some great bear hunters, and I've learned a lot from them. I consider myself a good hunter. I'm a relatively new bear hunter. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm this big bear hunter that all the time. That's what I focus on. I focus on animals that I'm going to go after. I've chased a lot of big bucks and so forth. Once it gets under my skin, that's what I'm going to chase. I learned a ton about a couple seasons. I learned a lot about bear hunting from that crew. And a lot of those guys have a wealth of knowledge. I've gotten better. I still have a lot to learn. And I just want to say, I don't want to pretend like I'm some, I've been bear hunting for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. So that being said, what I have learned and some things that I like that have worked well for me is that those bait sites, when they get nasty and sloppy and mildewy, right, and they get all moldy, those bears kind of shy off. Instead of going every day, sometimes you'll get them 2-3 days. They'll get gaps in there. I hate that. It's something that I can control. That why not and keep that bear on that pattern if I can do so. So I'll always clean up my sites. Maybe not every day, but every 3 days. I'll if there's a lot left over, or if we got a big rain and it's really sloppy, I'll bring a rake in. I got my gloves and I'm taking 2 or 3 garbage bags out with me. Right. Another big thing is your baits, and I've said this a lot. Is again my experience. If you use a lot of big baits, you're going to have 2 big problems. One, they go super fast, like donuts, which everyone talks about, or big sweets, or apples. They go really, really fast if you have a decent amount of bears around. I had 6 baits going, and we had close to 26 different bears on all the baits, including cubs and all kinds of stuff. So we were running through a lot of bait.
Yeah.
But the donuts and the bigger baits go really fast. So if you have a bunch of bears, you're going to be reloading constantly. They also kind of get mushy really fast. So I like to mix in a lot of granular baits. I had a Kelsey Burgess. I don't know if you've ever met him, but he runs. Okay, so he's awesome. He's a wealth of knowledge as well, being a bear biologist for the state back in the day. He runs he has got a company that he sells his bait out of, which is fantastic bait. And he puts a mix together for a bunch of different guys, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want in your mix. And it's like a trail mix, if you will, with peanuts and kind of sweets and stuff like that. And I really feel like that was a big change for not a lot of guys will do. They'll use a lot of popcorn, they'll use a lot of sweets, but it gave the bear a lot of protein. It gave the bear a little bit different mix than maybe some more of the guys were using. And this is ridiculous, and I've talked about it, and some people laugh at me every time I say this, but if I ate donuts, 35, 40 pounds of donuts every day, well, I'd probably be dead. But if I was 900 pounds or 800 pounds and I was eating that, I'm getting the shits. Like it's going to be brutal on my stomach, right? And it also happens in the bear. You can see their digestive and how it changes. You see these piles of crap all over the place, and they turn to liquid, and all of a sudden the bear disappears for 2 days. Well, it's not that hard to figure out, right? He's got an upset stomach.
Right.
You mix in a decent protein with that, and it changes. It keeps them firm, and they actually stay on the bait consistently. He never left the bait outside of a reason for bad wind. That's a big thing. The other big thing is guys that are deer hunters, we always talk about the wind.
Right.
Big bears, I would say, are tenfold more obsessed about the wind than a big buck is.
Agree.
And again, and also the age of a bear. We have not gotten the age back of this bear yet. It's they're saying somewhere between 15 and 20. Hopefully, I'll know in June or July.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, but I'll put people that looked at the skull. They scored everything, that have done a lot through Pope and Young. He's like, dude, that's an old skull. Like, it's got a lot of calcification and so forth. So I'm really jacked to see that. But even let's call it a 10-year-old animal, right? Let's just be a round number versus a 5-year-old buck that guys are like, oh, that's a mature deer. Like, it's seen a lot. It's smart. Dump another 5 years on that animal, right? How smart they get. So you really got to pay attention. You really got to be on your game. The wind is paramount. They just don't make mistakes. Their eyesight is not nearly as good as a deer, so they really, really rely on their nose, and you got to be aware of it. You just can't just be willy-nilly. The little 100 and 200-pound bears, they don't seem to mind. They're going to come in, they're like raccoons. They don't really care. The big boys that have had some issues, he was full of stuff. He had 22s in him, bird shot, all kinds of stuff. He had the butcher told me he had an old arrow injury in his back leg. So he had been around the block. He had, he knew what the pressure meant. He didn't make mistakes very, very often. So those are my biggest things. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, everything you touched on there, it's funny because I think somewhere in the beginning you talked about not being a longtime bear hunter, but everything you said there is obviously was all part of your success, but a lot of that is stuff that maybe because of where we are, there's a lot of people who don't take it to that level because, let's face it, you could sit in a tree stand and a smaller bear is probably going to walk by you at some point during the season. It happens all the time.
Absolutely.
But a big bear like that, no, that's a whole nother world. And the key thing is obviously the wind and the camera work. I mean, I can't even imagine what your bill is for batteries, but the thing is that big bear is so old, so smart. He wasn't always the biggest bear, so he had to work his way to that size and that age. Okay, learning all the time, and for you to be able to focus on that bear, and it sounds like it was more than a couple year process. And then the work that you put into to keep on it with the baiting, all of that stuff is pretty much things that a lot of people won't do except for the hardcore bear hunters. I'm not a hardcore bear hunter. If I want to shoot a bear, I know that throughout those 2 weeks, whether it be A or B segment, there's a pretty good chance that something's going to walk by me. And obviously if I baited, that would obviously would help. Right. But the bear of that caliber that you got, whether you're a newer bear hunter or not, you did a lot of research, you put a lot of time in, and well deserved. And I mean, there's nobody who can't give you hats off to you, man. It's just, that's incredible. You just don't, you don't get on a bear like that that's moving the way you're explaining, so strategically.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that you went in, threw up a climber, weren't even 100% happy with how high you were, or, all of that is just incredible, and it just shows dedication. And I can only imagine, and you got to tell us, like, what the arrow flies, there's a feeling we all know, and sometimes it's good and bad mixed, especially the way you explained how he got hit, the arrow's buried, and then he walks away. But you got to tell me, how did you feel when you finally walked up on him and knew he wasn't going to run away from you before you hit him with the second arrow? I mean, what does that feel
You
like
know,
after the whole journey you put in?
I hate to be cliche about it, but it definitely is true. Where like there's a huge sigh of relief, and there's also a little bit of remorse. Like it was an obsession for a few years, where like literally my fiance will tell you she was more happy than anybody that I got that bear because it was
Yeah.
hours. I mean, I was spending I don't even know, I can't even quantify the hours that I would be running baits or mixing baits, putting our baby down and mixing baits in the garage at 10:30, 12 o'clock at night, doing what I got to do. So yeah, it was an awesome relief that it had come full circle, and it was a culmination of a lot of work. But it was also, it was he's a legend in his own right. So
Right.
I definitely appreciate taking an animal's life, but it was a little bit of remorse. We're like, okay, it's over.
Mm.
Uh, Very thankful, but yes, it is definitely a sigh of relief. Okay, we got it done. Fantastic, high fives. It was a lot of hard work. Thank God. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I got just a couple questions about how do you have a rough idea? I mean, really ballpark idea of how many pounds of bait you had to put out toward let's just say the last
Yeah.
year that you've been after them.
Oh, the whole year.
I'm just curious. Yeah.
Well, I can give you this season. I'm not. I can't.
Okay.
Even, I don't. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about last year. This season for sure was close to 4,000 pounds.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that
So,
that I know for a fact.
yeah, listening to your story, I'm just putting a couple things together. Like I mentioned, the cameras and the batteries and the
Yeah,
amount of work that is, and then the
yeah,
bait.
yeah.
And did you, like a lot of guys will bait at certain times of the day? I know a great deer hunter in New Jersey, shoots beautiful bucks, and I'm going to try to get him on his podcast because he's just a regular guy, but he's going in the woods at like 11 at night to bait on public land
hmm
for his deer,
hmm
which to me, and I think he's going back like 2 miles. So, like for you, did you bait at a certain time of
Right.
day to
Yes.
not be intrusive?
Yeah. So the year before, I actually baited a bunch during the night because the nights that he wasn't sleeping on the bait, he was giving me a lot of daylight movement. I have hundreds and hundreds of pictures of him in daylight, and I never wanted to bump him off the bait. This year was completely different. I did not get a ton of daylight. Most of his movement was at night, so I tried to be in there the times that I knew he was not going to be there, which was pretty much lunch, like that noon to 2 o'clock, which was easy for me to go around. I didn't have to deal with traffic. It was perfect. I never really got bears on my bait in that area. There was only like one or two other bears in that specific spot that was hitting that bait that I had. But yeah, I would if I couldn't get there basically by 2:30, maybe 3, and 3 was pushing it, I just didn't bait because
Right.
I didn't want to run the risk of bumping him off. There were a couple days where he showed up right at last light, and I did not want to run that risk of maybe him seeing me from 200-300 yards and feeling any kind of pressure in any way. So that 12 o'clock was kind of my go-to and try and get it in there and get out as fast as I can. Had everything prepped in the truck, ready to go, so I could be in and out of that spot as fast as possible.
Right. Wow. And yeah, so that's it's interesting when you say that the 1 year you're
Yeah.
seeing a more daylight and you're going at
Yep.
night, and yeah. So I mean, a lot of that will, especially when you have that many cameras, you'll start to figure out.
Yep.
You'll start to make, even if it's a guess, but you'll start to figure out if you think that's his core area, or if he's
Yeah.
coming there just to eat at night because of, and a lot of it has to do with the lay of the land and where he is and where he's comfortable.
100%. I think a lot of guys think about big bears. I'm not going to say incorrectly, but a little differently. So guys will bait and they'll see big tracts of timber or big tracts of land, like state land,
Right.
that this bear originally was on. And there were other guys that got pictures of him on this big state park, but they only got him at night. And he would be transient through that big timber, that open timber in the dark. He never really did during the day. But he always moved. When he would move during the day or in daylight was in those swamps.
Yeah.
So that's what I focus on.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of guys will go in the big timber thinking like, "Oh, this is the perfect bear spot," but
Yeah.
that bear, it may be the perfect bear spot for a cub or a young
Yeah.
boar, but a bear that wants to grow old
Yeah.
gracefully and
Yeah.
eat like I do, eat all them donuts, he's gonna definitely spend a lot of time in some really safe areas, like a big buck does.
Yes.
So when you say the swamp, it's funny because just thinking back, a lot of the areas I hunt, it's about 50-50, and a lot of I don't really have too many great areas to hunt, but a lot of my areas are wherever I could get access to, like most people.
Sure.
I don't really hunt public land, so I have some small postage stamp spots I hunt. But the interesting thing is, I mean, like this year and last year, I pulled some cameras, some regular trail cameras, non-cellular cameras. So some of those cameras, you could go almost a whole year on a set of batteries. And what I noticed is spots that I haven't even been to. Some of my spots I'll hunt a stand once because I put ladders up. I'll go in every year, make sure the straps are good and everything's good. But some of my stands, I'll literally hunt them maybe one day during the rut, depending on where they are. But I have noticed that over the years, the cameras that I pull in the swamps will have bears on them almost every single day. There hasn't been a single kernel of corn or anything there for almost a year. Because when I deer hunt, a lot of times what I'll do is I carry if spots that I'm not hunting with other people, I will carry like not a coffee can, but like a paintball tube that guys go and play paintball, and they got these tubes. I fill those tubes with my mix, and I mean, it's probably like, there's a glass right here. I guess it's like an 8-ounce glass. It's probably like 12 ounces of bait. And what I'll do is when I'm done hunting, if I'm hunting it one day, then there's no reason to bring anything. But if it's a spot I might hit once a week or so, I'll take that paintball tube when I'm done and I'll just sprinkle it out. And usually like 6 days later when I go hunt, when I see deer come in, whether they be does or small bucks, or if it's a bigger buck, I'm probably shooting it, but a small one, they'll go right to those spots because that bait was probably gone that first night. By 1 a.m, that bait was all gone. But they'll come back as they browse around and roam around. They'll check it. And that's kind of how I bait when I do bait. And that's not really baiting. I mean, it is baiting legally, but I put so little down because I don't want the bears there. Because I've been treed. I've had moms come in with 3 cubs, and man, they pick you off.
Oh yeah.
And I've had her right at the base of my tree, snapping her jaw. I wasn't going to move. There's nothing I could do. I've had a couple times where I had to call for somebody to come in and make some noise to push her away. But so I really try not to do a lot of baiting. I have one club that I hunt on with a few people, and everybody there baits. So you kind of have to bait if you want to see deer in that spot, because I don't really want to hunt trails to their bait, because it's just not the right thing to do.
Sure.
But it's interesting listening to you about the amount you've learned, especially with chasing a big bear like this. Is probably more than most people. And I know, like, for me, it's more than I'll learn in 20 years of doing this, because I'm not really chasing those bears, but you did, and you dedicated your time and your family's time.
There was a lot of time. And I learned a lot by screwing up. You know, I made a lot of mistakes like anyone does. And people, if you're not screwing up, you're not learning. I say it all the time. You got to get out there, just kind of try things, see what works, and keep going, and just, keep a journal or keep a mental note of what's going on and how they're moving, and adjust. Yeah,
absolutely. Can you do me a favor and just touch on the bow, the poundage, the arrow weight? You mentioned sever.
Yep.
Just give us an idea what you use so people can just see what a bear, like, how much of a weighted arrow he took.
Yeah. So my setup, I have a Hoyt Vector Turbo, which is an older bow, and everyone's like, "What are you doing with that?" I love that bow. It is my baby. I shot a lot of the new bows. I do it every year to see if I like something more. I haven't. It's almost a 350 IBO, so it's still shooting fast. But my arrow setup is a Victory Extortion, which is a little older arrow. I think it's like 3 years old now. I don't even know if they make it anymore, but it's like the Victory Rip or TKO or whatever it is, where it's got the stainless steel ribbons that are going through it.
Right.
It's a heavy arrow, and I had the Sever 2.0 on the tip. The whole setup was about 535 grains, which is a heavy setup. I knew, it's a big animal, but with that setup, I took an elk with it with no problem. I was like, I got a good, confident shot. I know I'll be able to put a pretty good shot on him, and we'll be able to come take him down. The penetration was better than I anticipated. I did not think it was I did not get a complete pass through, but it poked out the other side. And it was more than I could have asked for. That 2.0 did some serious damage.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I started using those Sever broadheads, and I've used probably every broadhead. Like most hunters, probably have tried everything. I'm a one and done with a mechanical broadhead. I don't really try to, rebuild them or whatever. But I will say that those severs, I've been super impressed with them. I mean,
Absolutely.
they fly fantastic. I've shot the two, I guess it's a two-bladed 2.0. And now I've been shooting a lot of these. I guess they call them a hybrid. It has two little bleeder blades. Just fantastic broadhead. I mean,
Yeah,
just
they're
done
doing some good stuff.
Yeah. My son shot his first buck with a compound this year, or I'm sorry, last year. And just incredible. It wasn't a great shot, but it didn't run 40 yards. So it did the damage it had to do for us to recover the deer. But yeah, I'm really liking those.
Absolutely.
Really.
And, just touching on that, the shot I did make, which on a bear, if you're a little forward, it's different than a deer. You want to be more center of center, right? And because he was quartering away, I was a touch forward. I blew out one lung and nicked the second lung. And because of that 2-inch cut, it saved me. I'll be honest with you. An 800 plus 900 pound animal that has one lung can go really far. I mean, he would not have stopped. So I'm super grateful that I was actually shooting that broadhead, or at least a 2-inch cut that got the penetration. He got in there and did enough damage. And I think he would have gone a lot farther, and it would have turned into a little bit of a headache for me if he did not expire where he did. So
yeah,
got the
you're
job
right.
done.
I agree with you on that. Another question for you. I was just curious when you spotted out this bear, and you had explained how I guess it was 2 years ago, correct?
Yeah. It started 3 years ago. Last year was the first season I hunted him,
Yeah.
and then got him this year. Yep.
So were you actually thinking of targeting a big bear, or did you happen to see this big bear and say, "Oh, this is something I might want to go after"?
So I was scouting this specific area because I knew it held some good bears, and I would really wanted to focus on. I had shot a good 450 a couple years before, and wanted to kind of jump up a little bit and see what I could chase. I had heard stories of a bear in that area that guys had gone after for years, and it kept beating them. I was like, let's see what's what. And within about, I don't know, maybe a week and a half, he popped up, and it was obsession game on.
So I'm assuming that I guess you shot it on day 2 of the season, correct?
Day 2, Tuesday. Yep.
So I'm guessing and how big did you think he was? Did you know he was that big, or?
No, I did not. I thought he was 7. I thought he was like 7 live weight. That's what all the pictures I'd sent some guys that, again, know more than I do. They were like, yeah, dude, he's 657 all day. No problem. Did not think we were talking, 850 plus, wherever he landed live weight. But it was, when you roll up on him, it's humbling. And then you try and move him, and that's even more humbling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, shit, I didn't even ask you that. I mean, when I walked up on the bear that I shot, it was the first bear I ever shot. I mean, I grabbed, poked it a couple times. It was dead. And my buddy goes right away, let me grab a quick picture. Oh, yeah. I just kind of got behind it, and I grabbed one ear, and I went, that's weird. I grabbed one ear, it didn't move. And I'm like, so my bear took us a few guys, a sled, and to drag it. How the heck did you guys get that thing out of the woods? I know you said it died in a better spot for you.
Really good spot up on a hill where we were able to slide it down into the truck, which made it incredible. I was able to get a truck really close to it, like within 30 yards of it, 25 yards of it. And it only took me and one other guy to slide it down a hill. Nobody believes me. I wish it was almost filmed, but we did get it into the truck with 2 guys. We did not have to lift it in any means. We were able to slide it into my buddy's sled. There's some pictures that you've seen with me laying next to the bear in the sled. My buddy Eddie has this ridiculous jet sled that's literally like a grizzly jet sled, and we were able to tip the bear into that and slide him right down the hill. Not easily, but within reason. Again, if he had died 60 yards, totally expired 60 yards earlier in that rock outcropping, we probably wouldn't have gotten him out whole. That would have been home to ball game. Yeah.
I mean, bears smaller than that bear have been, quartered up and pulled out with a backhoe and front end loader. So it's interesting because you obviously have you had friends ready to help you. The last few years, I've actually, I'll get my trailer, my 4-wheeler ready, and I'll let anybody know if they need a hand. I got climbing rope and whatever. I'll come and help.
Sure.
But this year, I think if I'm going to go after something with the bow, I may be making sure I have you on call because
Let's do it, man.
you guys definitely know how to get him out. I was just thinking of something. It's funny. You look online or you watch these guys on these Facebook groups and stuff, and you'll always have the guy that posts a picture of a bear and goes, hey, it'll be like a nighttime picture, decent shot of the bear, and he'll go, anybody give me an idea how heavy this thing is? And I just laugh when I see that because there's numbers all over the place.
All over.
And you just wonder why people even answer that question because, like you said, you've obviously were studying that bear and you just can't tell. You don't know. But, if it's a buck, you could obviously look at his rack and try to compare it maybe to another buck that you might know. But bears are very deceiving.
They're so hard. A picture is hard. In person is hard. In a picture, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just difficult.
Now, with all that work you did, I'm just thinking as a hunter, with all that work you did, you went in, let's say you shot him on the second day. Let's say you went the whole week. During that whole week, let's say that bear, which I know obviously with 30 cameras, you knew which one he was. What if like a 450 walked by you? Would you have said, it's Thursday, you know what? No.
No, between me, you, and everyone else on this, but we had a couple others that were in the sixes that we actually let go. And my other buddy was going after one too, and I actually I put someone on a 550 2 days later. Yeah. So there's some great bears around. A lot of guys are chasing them and so forth. But no, it was pretty much him or. He was the one for me, and then if I didn't get him, if someone else had gotten him, which awesome, right. I would have just turned into film mode and went and filmed a whole bunch of my buddies. I did want to originally film this bear, and I brought my camera gear with me, but the way he just changed everything up on me at the last minute, would have been possible. If I had someone else in the tree with me, we probably could have gotten some footage of it. But where he ended up going and not reading the script, it was and how tight that swamp. It was to the point where you could barely see where the bear was walking to. It was so thick, but just wasn't meant to be with the camera. That would have been awesome. But I did get my a buddy of mine 2 days later. I got him shooting a nice 550. We got that whole hunt. That's going to be up on the channel in a little bit, so that'll be cool.
Nice. And you just mentioned the channel. I'll bring that up next. I just wanted to ask you. So would you get how much meat and stuff did you get out of the bear, and where are you at with that?
So we got I think it was 297 pounds of meat, which was incredible. I got like 50 or 60 pounds of sausage and all kinds of chopped meat and all the roasts and all the good stuff. So we dug into that. I just dropped it off at a buddy's. George, the butcher in Kearney, he's a good friend of mine. He's doing up some salami for me. He's not a professional butcher, more or less. Can't go see him. He's just a friend doing a favor. But he's doing a whole bunch of salami. I can't wait to have that for the summer with everybody around the barbecue and so forth. The other big thing is there's a lady named Robin that does a ton of stuff with the bear fat in New Jersey. I don't know if you've ever met her. No. Miss Grit. She's on New Jersey Woods and Water. She's really great. I might mispronounce her last name, Robin Egbert. Right. Sorry if I did. But she's absolute sweetheart, and she does incredible stuff. So all the bear fat she took, and she turned into lotions and into body butters, into chapsticks, into soaps, into candles. It was all used. It was incredible stuff. She sent me a care package with a whole bunch of stuff. It was incredible. She did a great job. So the whole bear is used. Like nothing went to waste that could be used.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome. And it's funny. You just gave me, if I ever want to get rid of my wife, I got to bring home, I don't have to do anything bad. I just got to bring home body bear butter for Valentine's Day gift. And that's it. I'm single.
You know what? Though, we laugh about it. I'll be honest with you. And my fiance started using some of it, and she looked at me. She doesn't come from a hunting family. When she met me, she was like, "You're an alien. Like, what are you doing?" and then this whole box showed up. She goes, "What are we going to do with this?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let's try it." So I tried some of the chapstick. I was like, "Wow, this is great." And then she tried some of the body butter. She's like, "This is actually really good." and people go crazy for it. You hear everybody on the internet talking about like beef tallow for your hair and your skin and all that stuff. Yeah. That's all it is. It's bear tallow, right? Bear fat tallow. So use it as whatever we can of the animal. We're going to use it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. One last question about how you led up to actually being successful in shooting a bear, not only of a lifetime, obviously a world record bear, New Jersey record. I'm guessing because you mentioned you were OCD, which a lot of hunters are, and some hunters aren't. Some hunters just wing it, and some of them get really lucky. But I like the OCD thing because the fun is the effort you put in, the work you put in, what you learn. I love that as well. I spend a lot of time in the woods and don't come home with a lot of animals. But it's okay. I like being in the woods and learning and all. And I was just thinking of something. With all those cameras and everything, obviously you learned a lot about the wind direction, right? From the cameras and when you saw the bear and whether he was coming in downwind of the bait or did he not come in after you were there, depending on the wind direction. So just touch on that wind direction because that's big with anything that you're really hunting except for maybe turkeys.
It's paramount. I mean, especially with the big bears, he would never approach the bait. Like I said, that I knew I couldn't go on that Monday because it was southwest wind, and he actually never hit the bait on a southwest or my bait on a southwest wind because he couldn't approach it safely. One side was a main road, the other side was a swamp that he was on, and he couldn't get to it on a southwest wind, so he had no way of checking it without completely exposing himself, right? So he just wouldn't come. So I needed that northwest wind. He needed that northwest wind to feel secure. The wind is, again, to me, it's everything. Same thing with deer. You can get as crazy as you want with the scent products and machines and all kinds of stuff. I don't care what you buy, and I have bought every single thing that's out there.
Right.
Some of them work well, right? None of them, and I will die on this hill. None of them are 100%. Just not going to happen. Some of them work. They definitely help, right? You still should play the wind. You shouldn't just use those sprays, machines, whatever, and just go willy-nilly. You shouldn't do that. Definitely play the wind. Use it to your advantage. I personally like cross-face winds a lot more than like in-your-face winds. I feel like bucks, if you can hunt a lot of bucks that I've chased, that one specifically, I couldn't get a perfect wind that was in my face, but I could get a wind that he felt somewhat secure with. Right. And I could just cheat enough that he was just downwind and he felt secure enough and he just wasn't cutting into my pattern because he was coming from a farther distance and he didn't get to right where my tree was. So that cross-face wind really helped me kill a lot of great animals. Right. Same thing with this bear. It was a cross-face wind. It was not directly in my face. It was cutting across my face. And he, again, thought it was perfectly fine until he got into the woods and did what big bears do and had that sixth sense. I wish that's the only thing about this hunt that drives me and will drive me crazy. I have stayed up nights thinking about why he stopped and what do we know, all that stuff. Yeah. But it is what it is. You learn and you move, but the wind is definitely paramount on all of it. Definitely play it as much as you can.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, when you mentioned before about field dressing that bear before you got it to this check station, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, none of us, I mean, I know myself and it sounds like you, we're not hunting animals that we're not eating. So right. I agree with you 100%. And the other thing that's funny, and I've only met you, I think once, but you mentioned somebody named George that's doing a favor for you. When I shot my bear, which was quite a few years ago, I had a guy that down, I forgot where he was, somewhere down like in Lyndhurst area or something. I think his name was George. He did my bear for me. He butchered it up for me. I don't know if it's the same guy, but the funny thing is that when I would go into the firehouse, because I gave some meat away, for people to try and all, but yeah. I was a retired firefighter, but when I would go into the firehouse, he made me like summer sausage, and it was outrageous. So I would go into the firehouse and I would bring like a half of a summer sausage when I would go in like for my we did split shifts back then, so I'd go in like 5:00 at night. Okay. Everybody's having coffee, and I would lay that thing on the table, cut it up, put some slices out, and everybody would. Most of the firemen just grab shit. They just eat it. They don't even care what it is. But because of the color of it and all, people asked me, and I told them, I said, it's a bear shot. It's a really good summer sausage. And almost every time, especially if I was in like a different firehouse, they'd be like, "Oh man, are you nuts? I'm not touching that." And then one guy would take a little piece, and he'd go, "Whoa, that's not bad." He'd take a little bigger piece, and then the other like 3 guys would look at him like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not eating a bear. That's boo-boo, Yeah, and then before you know it, every single time, whatever I bought in was gone. It was gone. So, I mean, and that's again, there's some people who just don't want to eat bear meat, but that's fine. But you should at least try it because it's actually, depending on how you cook it, it's pretty good.
It's great. Our Jersey bears are actually great eating. I've heard, I've never personally taken a northern bear like Canada or Maine. I've heard those bears can be less appetizing.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, I heard it's just their diet and so forth. But our
Yeah.
bears are great. They eat really well. I've eaten it for years, and a lot of the blowback that I got after this hunt came from the non-hunting community because they just assumed that you don't eat bear.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation countless times now. I'm like, no, 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 that's not the case. Like this bear is being used, it was completely butchered down. Everything that could be used is being used.
Right.
And that helped a little bit move things along and smooth some things out once I was able to get that message out. But yeah, no, like
Yeah.
we always want to eat what we kill.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the non-bear hunting community, you know, there's not much in coming from there. You know, but on the other hand, the hunting community that we all share with really has to 100% back each other, because
Yeah.
if we don't back each other, and you got people who complain about what kind of weapon you use or how you use it, or this guy smokes cigarettes in his tree stand.
Right.
Listen, I say, however you do it, you're doing it legally. God bless you. Get out there and
Yep.
and enjoy yourself. And we got to back each other. You know, we started off by me talking about the Nugent phone call you got
Yeah.
yesterday, which is awesome. On the first time I got a call from Ted, which was quite a few years ago. We're partners now with part of my business and his business actually. But the first call I got from him, it started out with not believing it was him, and then it went into talking about the deer lore and stuff. But we spent most of our time talking about, and it was his lead on it. He started talking to me about the different. He knows a lot about every state and the rules and
Sure.
and everything. And we were talking about this and how maybe certain states you can't hunt on Sunday, or New Jersey you can't gun hunt on Sunday or whatever. And some states have different rules. And we talked about antler restrictions and things like that. And he was very adamant about, if somebody's getting out there and they're enjoying themselves and they're shooting a spike and they're happy because that's their trophy, and
Right.
maybe they don't have the time that I have. Some people don't. A lot of people don't, and it's understandable. And I think that was our conversation for like an hour, was about those types of things and how we really have to embrace each other as outdoorsmen, women, hunting, fishing, because we got to lead. We got to lead the youth into it. I mean, my son. He was in the stand before he could legally hunt, and
I love it.
my daughters as well. And everybody's got to do that. But really, we got to embrace each other and
Yeah.
got to stop beating each other over the head over stupid things.
I
man.
agree.
I mean, but
We can be our own worst enemies sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's. I think most people, especially when it comes to like keyboards and internet, they'll type something and then like an hour and a half later they'll be like, "Yeah, probably shouldn't have wrote that."
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to just embrace each other. And I have a good friend that is now focusing more on getting new people out to hunt. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome, especially with the apprentice program and stuff we
Yeah.
have.
Great.
But listen, the crew that's around you, your friends, they're lucky because we all going to learn something from what you just talked about. I think, there's no doubt we're going to learn something, but your crew's lucky because they see how hardcore you are and your success. And I think we all see it too. So like I said, you inspired me a bit.
Good. I appreciate
because of how tenacious you were, man. I love it. So before we wrap this up, I'd like you to touch a little bit on what's going on now with your new brand and everything. It seems like it's going to be something really big for you. Tell us a little bit about it.
Having some fun with it. Timberlife Outdoors, basically, just an idea born out of Jersey hunting, group of regular men and women that, have jobs, have families, but are still, carving out some time to get it done in the woods. I got a good crew of guys that we chase everything you can in New Jersey. We do a lot of waterfowl, deer, turkey, bear. And I got into the filming aspect of a couple years ago, and I was like, you know what? Let me either do this or don't do this. So let me just jump in with both feet and have some fun with it. And that's what we're doing. We're going to lay down some great content as much as we can, hopefully teach some stuff, learn some stuff, show some failures, show some success, and just show the average person that's not necessarily going on outfitted hunts. We may go on outfitted hunts, but most of our stuff is on public. And just most of it will be in New Jersey. We'll definitely do some out of state, but it's just a good group of guys and women that are just, getting out there, getting whatever we can done. I just posted a whole bunch of turkey videos, but we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Instagram is Timber_Life_Outdoors. On Facebook, it's just Timberlife Outdoors. There's also a YouTube channel, Timberlife Outdoors, and we'll be posting a whole bunch of stuff. The YouTube channel just started. It got about 4 or 5 videos, turkey videos up. Got another one going down today, and I got some deer, and I got some bear, and then I got some waterfowl stuff coming out. So we're gonna have some fun with it and see where it goes.
Awesome, man. It's fantastic. That's great stuff. I've already checked it out, and it looks like you got something really cool going on there. And
Thank you.
I love the whole New Jersey aspect. New Jersey doesn't get a lot of credit for hunting stuff, but we got some monster bucks running around. We got some monster bears. And it's a great state for all kinds of hunting. I mean, turkey's coming up. I can't wait. But we're gonna have to definitely get back with you because I know you shot a nice buck last season, so we have to get back with you. And I'd like to do something on maybe some advice for some new bear hunters and stuff. It would be really cool. Yeah. I just want to say real quick, this is something new for me. I mean, I don't normally do stuff like this. Obviously, I own a deer lure company. I've been pushed for years to start doing videos on how to use stuff, so I'm gonna start doing that. But I just want to I got to mention real quick that there's a group out there, good friends of mine, Chris and Joe and their producer Deuce. They run a awesome video podcast called New Jersey Multi-Species. And I started doing some this year. I started doing some guest time with them, talking about the rut and just some different hunting tactics. And I was doing that, and they kind of pushed me a little bit to maybe do something on my own. But I'm also going to do some stuff with them. So this is all new to me, and I got to tell you, I'm really honored, Brian, that you came on because it's just a fascinating lead up to a world record bear, and it's out of our state of New Jersey. It's just absolutely awesome. So I want to, I'd like everybody to go check out their multi-species podcast, and definitely check out Timberlife Outdoors, because I think we're gonna see some good content coming, and we're gonna get you back on here, Brian. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on an animal of a lifetime, and just excited to see what the heck is next for you. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Had a blast.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.